This week on the Brody File, we're on the border. No, not Taco Bell. Arizona and California. It's our immigration special. We're up close with agents on the front lines.
It gives me a sense of accomplishment in trying to keep, the people out that are trying to do our country harm.
Also, the compassionate side of the immigration debate. One-on-one with Jose, an illegal immigrant.
I always read the Bible and pray. And I promised God, since I left Honduras, that if I made it to the U.S., well, I will dedicate myself to the things of the Lord.
And Mike Huckabee waxes poetic about President Obama's immigration policy.
You can't just open the gates and say, like Minnie Pearl, y'all come, which I think what we've done. I mean, Barack Obama has become the Minnie Pearl of immigration.
Get ready, everybody. We're on the border. We're the Brody File. And we're next. And welcome everybody to another special edition of the Brody File. We are here, the U.S.-Mexico border near Yuma, Arizona. As a matter of fact, the border, the floating fence, which we'll explain a little bit later, is right behind me. Actually, let me tell you where we're located. We are in the Imperial Sand Dunes in California. We're right on the border with Mexico. Now they have about 8 miles of a floating border fence in this area, and it's patrolled by the Yuma Border Patrol sector. Well, look, we've had a front row seat watching these guys do their work of enforcing the border, and they don't just patrol the sand dunes out here. They're responsible for 126 miles of the border. As a matter of fact, they took us over to a checkpoint on Interstate 8 east of Yuma, Arizona. And we've been through the Gila Mountains into the Sonoran Desert where we saw the fence. We also saw a lot of tumbleweed in the desert, and yeah, we saw snakes too, but don't worry, we're fine. The Brody File and the crew, we were not bit at all. We have been along the Colorado River too with Border Patrol agents. The river separates Mexico with the U.S. And we also went down to San Luis, Arizona, a border town with Mexico just on the other side. So look, there are obviously two storylines here on the immigration issue. There's the law, there's compassion, and we're going to start with the law. How do these guys do their jobs? They are humble American heroes, and we got a chance to see them up close.
We're looking for disturbances in the sand, footprints, or whatever it may be.
This is the front lines of the immigration battle. Agents near Yuma, Arizona, constantly searching for people illegally crossing the Mexican border, whether in the desert, on the river,
Rescue 6-4, roger.
I know we're being observed at all time. They know we're here right now.
or along the highway.
Just last week, they pulled 29 pounds of methamphetamine from inside the gas tank.
The Yuma Sector Border Patrol actually patrols about 126 miles of the United States border, and they patrol all over, including here in the Imperial Sand Dunes in California. It is a wild scene out here, including a floating fence for 8 miles. This fence is unique in that a machine makes sure it won't lose height, even if sand builds up around it. Tools like this help agents like David Lines catch those trying to make an illegal run across the border.
It gives me a sense of accomplishment in trying to keep, the people out that are trying to do our country harm. There are people every day that try to cross. Some of them are humble families, but others are people that have intentions on doing things to our country that obviously we don't want done here.
And those with bad intentions consistently come up with creative ways for beating the system.
The smugglers are limited only by their imagination. They have unlimited funding, and they can hide things in every part of a vehicle that you could think of.
Real-life examples include cocaine in an oil pan, heroin in a hay bale, and smuggling people. Well, some have been found under wood on a truck, or even hiding in a suitcase. That's why highway checkpoints complete with canine heroes are crucial.
It's kind of a game. It's kind of a cat and mouse game. They're going to try something today. We're going to try to beat that. We're going to go out and we're going to try to one-up them. And then I know tomorrow, whatever we find today, tomorrow they'll be trying something else.
While we've all heard about the massive problems along the Texas border, the Yuma sector is considered one of the most secure in the nation. Just look at the numbers. In 2005, they hit almost 140,000 apprehensions. Today, just over 6,000. So why the drop? Well, money made a huge difference. Under President Bush, Border Patrol spending skyrocketed, going from roughly $4 billion in 2001 to $12 billion in 2008 when he left office. Much of that money went here and translated into triple the number of agents, better technology, and a fence along every mile of this Yuma sector. On the Colorado River, separating Mexico from Arizona, better technology has helped immensely.
We also have sensors that allow us to detect an entry, and then we go see what's going on.
Border towns like San Luis, Arizona have seen the most progress. No more barbed wire and just a flashlight to keep out illegals.
It really comes down to the manpower and the infrastructure. Not only is it the triple layer fencing, but we also have the stadium lights, we also have the mobile light units, because there's areas where we have to be vigilant at all times.
Agents quickly point out that a fence won't stop people from trying to get into America. It just makes their job a bit easier.
That fence is there as a deterrence. That fence is there to give agents time to respond, but it's just another variable that is in that equation.
And those creative drug smugglers have dug tunnels to get across. Fortunately, agents have caught on to those operations too.
And this was a completed tunnel. It had lights, it had vents for people, and it was most likely going to be used to smuggle in narcotics and illegal drugs. So it's for us, stopping tunnels is just as important in protecting our borders as stopping illegal aliens, criminals, terrorists, and terrorist weapons as well.
Nowadays, with added terror threats, agents are on high alert. Homeland Security recently issued a warning that ISIS terrorists are looking to cross the U.S.-Mexican border. Now, while the Border Patrol works to keep out potential terrorists, they must also be mindful of the other force trying to get into America, the families crossing illegally in search of a better life. Many don't make it, dying in the sizzling Sonoran desert. So agents try to help when they can. And there are beacon sirens. And those beacon sirens can be pushed if those illegals want to give up the fight, because safety is always a priority.
I'll tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see agents getting hurt. I don't like to see migrants or civilians getting hurt, much less by drowning.
All in a day's work for the men and women guarding our borders. Some have died protecting the country they love, while politicians in Washington argue about the politics. All right, well, now to the compassion side of the argument. The church is grappling with this question. Where do you draw the line on compassion when someone is breaking the law? We spoke with 18-year-old Jose Maldonado. He's now living in Southern California. He's actually waiting on a second court date in January to see if he's going to be allowed back into or actually to stay in the U.S. Last year, Jose said he traveled from his home in Honduras all the way up through Mexico, across the desert, into Texas. It was a 3-month journey, almost cost him his life. Jose had very little food and water with him, and he knew he couldn't survive on his own strength, and so that's when he said he cried out to God in the desert, literally.
I always read the Bible and pray, and I promised God since I left Honduras that if I made it to the U.S., well, I will dedicate myself to the things of the Lord.
Jose said his parents abandoned him at a young age. His grandparents actually raised him, but after they passed away in his teen years, Jose said he raised himself, and there's often no one to turn to for help except for gangs. So, as you can see, the compassion issue is not tidy. It's very complicated and a bit messy. We're going to have more on Jose in a future Brody File show. Look, some trivia here. Did you know, these sand dunes may look familiar. Star Wars, you've seen the movie, Return of the, how many millions of people, hundreds of millions have seen this movie, Return of the Jedi, filmed here in 1982, actually, right here in the sand dunes. We are told it was about 120, 125 degrees when they filmed. Craziness out here. By the way, we should also point out, the fence behind me, obviously Mexico on the other side. From this point to the interstate, roughly about 4 miles, and of course, that's when many of the illegal aliens can try and get that car ride, quote, out of town. And so, though it's only 4 miles, though 4 miles is still quite a distance, in the sand dunes out here, walking 4 miles in this sand, good luck. It's tough. All right, when we come back, we head to the Colorado River, and boy, our Border Patrol agents doing their job there as well. But look at that when we come back. And welcome back, everybody, to a special edition of the Brody File. We are on the Colorado River. Boy, I tell you what, it is, it's really beautiful out here. It's very hot. I mean, it's already like 105. You get on the water, it's a lot hotter than that. But let me give you a sense of where we're at. To my left is the state of Arizona, the United States. To my right is Mexico. And this is what the Border Patrol here is doing. They're actually patrolling these waters, about a mile, mile and a half or so of stretch of water, Colorado River, not very far at all to traverse between Mexico and Arizona. And we're gonna have more on that in the next segment. But first, I wanna bring in Jennifer Wishon, who's in Guatemala, actually, dealing a lot with the story down there about Central American kids trying to get up to the United States. We've heard all about them in the news. Jennifer, what do you have from down there?
David, here in Central America, immigrating to the U.S. illegally is as ordinary as doing laundry. Here in Guatemala, people think nothing of waking up to learn their neighbor has left on their way to the U.S. There's no social safety net in Guatemala, so for people living in extreme poverty, the chance of being raped or even dying on their way to the United States is better than anything they have to look forward to here. Most Guatemalans are poor. It's that poverty and the violence it drives that motivates people to flee, even to send their kids to the U.S. alone. And everyone who leaves wants the same thing.
A better future for them, to have what I never had since my childhood.
Instead, this is where Honduran Benitez and her 2 children ended up. An immigration house like many dotted across Central America. She was on her way to the U.S., but the Coyote, a guide who escorts people to the border for a steep fee, abandoned her in Guatemala with no money.
I imagined it would be easy, since it's the first time I leave my country. I didn't even know the border between Honduras and Guatemala. I never imagined this would happen. I only had a bag with clothes for myself and my children and our documents. That's all.
It's too dangerous for her children in Honduras. So she hopes to find a job in Guatemala and this winter, try again. Here's a typical women's room at the immigration house. There are 10 beds. Immigrants are allowed to stay here for about 2 weeks. And at this house, the need is so great, they're hoping to build a 3rd level. The number of kids and adults from Central America attempting to cross the border illegally has decreased. But as long as people here feel stuck in poverty and fear violence, David, they'll keep trying to get into the U.S.
That's Jennifer Wishon down in Guatemala. All right, look, when we come back, we're going to still be here on the Colorado River with Border Patrol. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk to the vessel commander. Quite an interesting story and how they operate down here on the river. Back in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to a special edition of the Brody File. We're decked out here on the Colorado River. Is this a great fashion statement or what? I think I'm going to use this in D.C. Steve, should I do that?
I like the sunglasses too.
Steve Jacoby, our photographer, saying, go with it, it works. All right, look, so we're on the Colorado River, and we talked to the vessel commander here in the Yuma sector of Border Patrol. His name is Tomas Diaz, and here's a little bit of our conversation about what they're doing here on the river. So what happens if someone, let's just say, for example, someone starts to swim across the border? You're going to what then at that point? Speed up?
Well, you know, there are rules and laws that we need to follow.
Okay.
And basically, they need to do what it's called a significant entry. So there are treaties. And if somebody just comes from Mexico with the boat, just trying to have a good time or just fishing offshore, that's no problem. They need to make a significant entry into the country for us to act.
So if someone does try to come across, what if they get to the other side? Then do you have to alert folks on the ground?
Yes, well, we do have certain tactics, and we work as a team, and I believe that that's why we're successful. There's no superheroes here. We're humans, and not only do we see people trying to make a significant entry, this is an area for drug smuggling.
How long of a stretch here are you patrolling?
Okay, well, this area right here is roughly a mile, maybe 2 miles, and for us it's kind of a funnel that but we go beyond that. This is just the area. We do have a rock weir that we need to deploy a second vessel if we have any kind of activity beyond this area.
Thank you for doing this. That is Tomas Diaz, here, the vessel commander on the Colorado River. We appreciate him quite a lot. All right, when we come back, we're heading about 30 minutes or so away from here down to San Luis, Arizona. More border control. It's an urban environment. We'll show it to you up close when we come back. And welcome back, everybody, to the special edition of the Brody File. We're here in San Luis, Arizona now. Behind me, across the border, you see the fence behind me. Across from me is San Luis, Mexico. Look, this was a hot spot for illegal aliens to come across the border. But since 2005, 2007, right around there when it was ground zero and a real problem here, since then the Yuma sector has really cleaned this place up. As a matter of fact, the whole sector had about 138,000 apprehension or border apprehensions back around that 2005 period or so. Now 6,000, that's right, 138,000. 7, 8, 9 years later, whatever it happens to be, 6,000. That's pretty amazing. A lot of them were, a lot of the illegal aliens coming through right here. Why was that exactly? Well, we're going to talk to Doug Choi, who gives us a little bit more insight as to what is happening in this area.
Right now, we have a lot of infrastructure, a lot of manpower down there. Right now we have as you can see, the triple layer fencing. We have the primary fence, the secondary fence, and the chain link fence. That is there to deter illegal aliens, and that's also there to make it difficult for them to come into the United States, and it gives agents time to react to, you know, the illegal aliens attempting to enter into the United States and to be able to make that apprehension. This area right here, very close to residential areas, very close to shopping areas, so if illegal aliens make that entry here, it doesn't take a long time for them to make it into these areas, and then it becomes a lot more difficult for us to apprehend them.
That is Doug Choi here on the Brody File. Look, before we head to break, I want to show you a little bit of this interview we did with Mike Huckabee. I did it for the One America News Network. As you know, I'm doing some interviews for them. We had a chance to speak to Huckabee about the immigration issue, and look, a lot of this and the problem for the Republicans is the messaging on the issue, and that's what Mike Huckabee and I discussed.
I think we have to be clear that we're for the law, but we're not against people. And there's a way to balance that, and the way to balance it is to show that we have a real compassion for people, but yet we have also an extremely strong sense of what's right and what's wrong. We want people to do what's right, not just for our sake, but for their sake. We don't want people to come here who have to hide out the whole time they're here. It's not in their best interest. Some of them will be exploited economically. One of the things we need to say to people is, if you come here and you're living in the shadows, then really it's hard to protect you. It's hard to protect you with a fair wage. It's hard to protect you with fair benefits, with even with such things as workers' comp, things that a lot of Americans take for granted. They assume that if they get hurt on the job, or if they do a job, they're going to get paid what they were promised. A person who's here illegally, who are they going to complain to? Who are they going to say anything to? And so the exploitation of the illegals is something we ought to speak to. But we also have to speak to the fact that you can't just open the gates and say, like many pearl, y'all come, which I think what we've done. I mean, Barack Obama has become the mini pearl of immigration. He might as well get the straw hat with the price tag on it and just sing the song, y'all come. And I think a lot of Americans are frustrated because, not that they're against immigrants, I don't think they are. They don't resent people coming. They resent people who didn't play by the rules.
Mike Huckabee always putting it very succinctly and in a bless your heart sort of way. All right, when we come back, the Oy Vey moment of the week. It is an immigration special. You won't forget it.
If you want to understand the war on terror, you must first understand the Muslim Brotherhood. Pick up my new book, The Brotherhood, America's Next Great Enemy. Available at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold from coast to coast.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File here in San Luis, Arizona on the U.S.-Mexico border. All right, time now. No matter what show it is, we always have time for this. It's the Oy Vey moment of the week. All right, well, this takes the immigration cake. You know, we've been hearing so much about these Central American kids being bussed in to certain places around the country. Well, Adam Quasman, a local politician up in the Phoenix area, saw this bus of children coming in near Phoenix, and he thought they were going to be Central American families, and he's out there protesting, and he's angry, and he's shouting, and whoops, it wasn't Central American children, it was just kids going to the local YMCA camp. Nice. Folks, that's an immigration oy vey moment of the week. He has since apologized, or we think he's apologized. Anyhow, definitely egg on the face. I believe that's what you said. Tracy Winborn, our producer, confirming you can say egg on the face. All right. Hey, look, that does it for us. But before we leave you, a couple things. First of all, we want to give you some sights and sounds, a little bit of our trip here in Arizona, California. I love you, America. God bless America. Dennis is getting a shot on my belly. Oh. Well, look, a big thank you to the Yuma Sector Border Patrol agents that we've been with David, been fantastic, Leroy, Josh, Doug, the whole crew. We're on a first name basis with them, believe me. We've got nicknames for them. Now we don't have nicknames, but they've been great to the point where we feel like we're all just family, and we appreciate them, and boy, we appreciate what they're doing here on the United States-Mexico border. Until next time, everybody, we're back in the stuffy old studio in Washington next week. Until then, God bless. Have a great week.